This is the 2023 Toyota Corolla Cross Hybrid. So Toyota's slightly smaller SUV launched about 18 months ago, replacing the quirky CHR with something a little more mainstream. If anything, it was a little too middle of the road, as the Corolla Cross lacked a really defining feature in a crowd that's very, very competitive. The hybrid changes that, bringing one of the few electrified options to the segment and improving both fuel economy and power. In fact, it really improves the entire driving experience, but as you'd expect, you're going to have to pay for that opportunity. So is it worth it? Let's go for a drive and find out. So what the Corolla Cross Hybrid does is essentially take the Prius powertrain and transplant it into Toyota's little SUV. So like the RAV4 Hybrid or even the Prius in Canada, the Corolla Cross Hybrid is available exclusively with electronic on-demand all-wheel drive. You've got a 2-liter engine up front and it's augmented with an electric motor on the back. Total system horsepower is 196, and Toyota quotes 139 pound-feet of torque for the gas engine and 152 pound-feet of torque for the electric motor. Even with that extra power, you're looking at a 40% improvement in miles per gallon, so Toyota is estimating 42 miles per gallon average. The battery is of the lithium-ion variety, and it sits underneath the rear seats, ensuring that there's the same cargo capacity in the hybrid as the regular gas all-wheel drive model. The styling for the Corolla Cross Hybrid is different from the regular gas model, and that represents a bit of a break from tradition for Toyota, at least currently with its SUVs. So you've got this different body-colored trim here, where normally there's a huge grille on the Corolla Cross. In fact, in a move that I'm sure Exhibit would approve of, the Toyota badge sits in a T-shaped recess. All hybrid models get the blackout badging, and this acidic blast paint color is unique to the hybrid as well. So with extra power, let's see how this is merging on the highway. So foot to the floor, pretty noisy, but noticeably more power than the regular Corolla Cross, which is, let's call it, leisurely. The sprint to 62 miles per hour now takes 8.2 seconds. Okay, that's more of a saunter than an outright sprint. Overall, I've got to say I am a big fan of the 5th generation hybrid system. It switches pretty seamlessly between electric and gas power, and that makes for a fairly refined experience in a class that isn't typically known for a whole lot of refinement. Also, because you do have that extra torque from the electric motor to rely on at low speeds, you end up with a lot less of that CVT moan that kind of characterizes the Corolla Cross gas experience. So really, this is, as is the case with most modern Toyotas, this is the way to go. Hybrid powertrain, better. Fuel economy is the hybrid's big selling point. Officially, it's rated for 45 miles per gallon city and 38 miles per gallon highway, for a combined 42 mile per gallon figure. Canadian figures are 5.2, 6.2, and 5.6 liters per 100 kilometers, respectively. So decent power. You've got steering that feels more or less the same as the Corolla Cross. Toyota says that the Corolla Cross Hybrid, being the sportier model, has a sport-tuned suspension. An engineer told me that the suspension is very slightly stiffer than the regular Corolla Cross, but honestly, unless you're driving them back-to-back, you're not really going to notice much of a difference. Honestly, I'd argue there's more of a difference between the S and XSE on account of the smaller 17-inch wheels and the taller sidewalls in that base model. The Cross rides well with no real leanings towards engagement or pampering. It exists right in the middle of the class, a mild-mannered and predictable car in operation. So you could tug at those steering wheel mounted paddles or even shift into the sport driving mode, but really the Cross feels better as a laid-back form of transport. So beside the much improved powertrain, the Corolla Cross Hybrid is pretty much the same interior experience as the regular car, and that's both a good or bad thing depending on your priorities. One positive I will say is that it's very easy to get comfortable in the Corolla Cross. You get in and all the controls are easily accessible, very in reach, like the seat heaters right down here, just ahead of the shifter. The shifter is not trying to reinvent the wheel here. It's pretty straightforward. The Corolla Cross does have enormous amounts of headroom. As someone who has a longer torso, I can sometimes feel a little penned in some vehicles, and that's not the case here. Plus, you do have a sunroof that you can just open up for some extra natural light. So here I see the crossbars for the roof rack. The seats are also pretty comfortable. I would say that maybe the seat base could be a little bit longer for me personally, but otherwise, I really like Toyota's Softex material. I think it is wholly acceptable to getting actual cow leather. I'm fine with this. There's a ton of headroom, though adults in the back might find legroom a little tight. So impressively, Toyota does keep the exact same cargo capacity in the hybrid versus the gas all-wheel drive model. You're looking at 24.3 cubic feet of storage space behind the second row. So what do I mean when I say it really depends on your priorities? Well, as the name implies, the Corolla Cross does take a lot of inspiration from the regular Corolla for its interior. And that means a pretty basic design. It's not bad, and I mean the trend nowadays is pretty minimal. It just lacks that premium design and look that competitors like the HR-V or especially the Mazda CX-30 really have with their interiors. So you've got this big bulbous dashboard over here with not a whole lot of, well, anything. Got the angular vents. It's just a safe interior design, and that's fine. And for a lot of people, that will be an appealing factor. But for those who are looking for a more stylish interior, the Corolla Cross is not it. Also thankfully improved is the infotainment system. So this is now running the current, much better infotainment system from Toyota instead of the old Entune one. It's pretty high res. It does have a really thick bezel, which does kind of cheapen the look. But overall, I can't really complain. It's a pretty good system to use, and you've now got an accurate voice assistant to use as well. Many of the features do require active subscriptions, however. Like I mentioned in the Prius Prime review, the smaller screen can become a little cramped in certain menus, like the Sirius XM one. The largely digital instrument cluster is an easy one to read and has a unique look from the gas model. Toyota Safety Sense 3.0 is one of the more robust assistance suites out there, and it's standard on every Corolla Cross Hybrid. Improvements include more dynamic cruise control settings, better pedestrian and object detection, and an emergency driving stop system that can pull the vehicle over if it senses the driver is unresponsive. So the Corolla Cross Hybrid comes in 3 trims in the US, all of which are actually unique to the hybrid itself. The lineup kicks off with the $29,305 S trim, and that price includes destination. And the S includes 17-inch alloy wheels, a smart key, the 8-inch Toyota infotainment system, and of course Toyota Safety Sense 3.0. Next up is the SE, which is about $1,300 more, and that adds blind spot monitoring with rear cross traffic alert, privacy glass, and a few other things. The XSE is the new range topper of the Corolla Cross lineup at $32,400. It adds 18-inch alloys, Softex seats, and a power driver's seat. There's also an available convenience package which bundles a power tailgate with the moonroof. Now that price does vault the CC past the HR-V, the Kia Seltos, and the Subaru Crosstrek, and it's around level with the fanciest non-turbo Mazda CX-30. The CC Hybrid will save buyers a couple $1,000s in fuel costs over 5 years, however. Canada's packaging is largely the same, though the Land in the north skips the entry-level S trim. Thus, you have the choice between the SE at $35,915 Canadian or the XSE at $38,685 Canadian. So I don't have to tell you that we here at AutoGuide weren't always the biggest fans of the original Corolla Cross. It just felt like a box-checking exercise, a course correction for the weirdo CHR. However, the hybrid model adds a unique angle to Toyota's small SUV, transplanting that excellent Prius powertrain into a market-friendly shape. Buying this higher-priced model gets you untouchable fuel economy and a more refined ride to go with it. If you can swing the higher price, the new Corolla Cross Hybrid is a small SUV that we definitely recommend.